Expectations were low for a fresh round of talks between Ukraine and Russia in Istanbul on Wednesday, and, well, they did not disappoint. The first meeting in almost 2 months broke up after less than an hour. Both Russia and Ukraine had warned not to expect a breakthrough in terms of a ceasefire or even peace, but the two sides have reportedly agreed to exchange 1,200 prisoners of war each and potentially hand over thousands of bodies of soldiers who died in the fighting. Kyiv has also offered Moscow to hold a leaders' summit aimed at ending the war by the end of next month. Donald Trump had threatened Vladimir Putin with further sanctions if he didn't reach a deal with Ukraine by early September. To discuss this further, I can now welcome the former Ukrainian Prime Minister, Arseniy Yatsenyuk. Welcome to the day. It's great to have you on the show. The agenda of this meeting is very limited. Are these really peace talks if peace is not on the table?
Well, I never trusted designated war criminal Putin. He has no intention to conduct real peace talks. It's a kind of brief chat. Have you seen that they've been talking for around an hour? So there is no real deliverables. The only aim that Putin has is actually to simulate these kind of talks and to show to those in the need, I mean mainly the Oval Office, that he is ready for some kind of vague talks. But in the end, he is just trying to buy the time and to cheat all of us.
Why is Ukraine playing along?
Well, no, Ukraine is acting in a good faith. In this way, Ukraine's delegation is showing to the entire world that we are ready to cut the deal, that we urge Russia to impose a ceasefire, that we already passed the memo to Russians, which are completely irreconcilable with the memo that Russians passed to us, because Russia wants to annihilate Ukraine and Ukrainians want to save Ukraine. So my government is acting in a good faith, and this gives an additional argument to our Western allies and to the global South, saying that, look, Ukraine is ready to cut the deal and Ukraine wants really to negotiate and to stop the war, which is Russia is not eager to make.
Yeah. When negotiators last met 7 weeks ago, the Kremlin said that their terms for peace were diametrically opposed with Ukraine's. I'm hearing you say the same. Has anything changed since then to shift the dial for either side, really?
Oh, there is only one way to shift the dial. It's to press on Russia fiercely, as strong as possible. And the latest package of sanctions that have been passed by the European Commission and by the European Union is a good leverage. It's all about the endorsement and execution of these kind of sanctions. The best way to get the real peace is to deprive Russia of its oil and gas revenues. The best way to get the real ceasefire is to give Ukraine as much ammo as needed. The best way to stop Putin is to press on China, which is clearly aligned with Putin. So they are together collaborating and supporting Putin actually to wage the war against Ukraine. This is the formula.
U.S. President Donald Trump trying to ramp up the pressure on Putin to end this war, giving Russia until September to agree to a peace deal or face new sanctions. How do you think that threat is being seen by Vladimir Putin? Because threats of sanctions and even sanctions themselves haven't really put him off.
Let me reiterate once again. So we actually have the 18th package of sanctions that have been imposed by the European Union. And it is a good start. It's not actually a start because we have a pile of sanctions, but it's all about the endorsement of these sanctions. In terms of the United States, my gut feeling is that the President of the United States has made a U-turn. He has realized that Putin wants to humiliate him. He has realized that there is no way, no way to cut a real peace deal with Putin under current circumstances. And he was very clear during his meeting with the NATO Secretary General that he is ready to provide an additional ammo to Ukraine. Well, we do accept the thing that the Europeans are ready to pay for this kind of ammo, and that the United States is not ready to provide an additional supplement aid package for Ukraine as of now. But look what's happened in the US House a few days ago. We still enjoy a bipartisan support. This Congresswoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she introduced an amendment to the defense budget, which actually eliminated U.S. support to U.S. military support to Ukraine. And in the end, only around 70 congressmen and congresswomen supported this kind of amendment. The rest of the House fully supports Ukraine. So it's another good sign. My gut feeling is that Trump has realized that if he wants to get the Nobel Peace Prize, he has to act. Otherwise, Putin will outplay, outcheat him, and humiliate him, which is not acceptable for this administration and for this president, and actually for the entire United States.
Yeah. He is known to flip-flop, though, and this is not the first U-turn, as you call it. We've seen him perform on this topic. How does it feel for your country's survival to be in the hands of someone so unpredictable?
You know, we are living in realpolitik, and the world is sometimes very unpredictable and even cynical. But on the other hand, look, I do believe that Americans fully realize that in case if Ukraine fails, this would be a biggest geopolitical failure of the entire United States of America and of the entire West. And we still have the support of G7 member states, of the entire European Union, of the United Kingdom, and we really commend Germany. So once again, you're right saying that we can get another flip-flop. But President Trump is not ready to accept his own defeat. And Ukraine's victory is President Trump and the entire Western world victory. Ukraine's failure is a disaster for everyone, including personally President Trump, which he is not ready to accept.
I want to move on to another topic because Volodymyr Zelensky is under a lot of domestic pressure this week as well. There have been rare street protests against a new law weakening the independence of two anti-corruption agencies. He's now vowed to present a new bill, but please give us your assessment. Why did he risk public support over this?
My government 10 years ago established all these anti-corruption bodies and anti-corruption agencies. And I, as a prime minister, was in favor of granting a super, I would say, independence for all these agencies. And we achieved a lot in the last decade, really. It's a staggering and tremendous progress. A lot of high-profile officials, public officials, and even Chief Justice, they are behind bars. So these agencies are not flawless. And we need to increase the efficiency of these agencies. But the thing is that Ukrainian people will never tolerate corruption. And the president just announced that he is ready to introduce a new bill, which is to enhance the independence of Ukrainian anti-corruption bodies. So they've made a mistake. And
he has not admitted that it was a mistake, though. He has given in to pressure. Yes, he's not presented a new bill yet. And we're seeing right now, as we speak, people out on the streets in Kyiv, again, protesting against President Zelensky. And that plays into the hands of Vladimir Putin, doesn't it?
That's my reading, that they've made a mistake. And what am I listening, as I'm listening to President Zelensky, he has realized that he has to change the course. Because, Otherwise, we can undermine Ukraine's bid to join the European Union. And once again, I am frankly happy. Look at the Ukrainians. Look at the Ukrainian vibrant civil society. Look at the Ukrainian young generation. They are very clear. They will never buy this. They will fight for justice and they will fight against corruption. That's similar that happened a decade ago in 2014 when I was one of the leaders of Maidan. So this mistake will be definitely corrected. There is no other option.
That was Arseniy Yatsenyuk, former Prime Minister of Ukraine. Thank you very much for your time. It was great to get your insights.
Thank you. Take care.
Orysia Lutsevich is the Deputy Director of the Russia and Eurasia Program and head of the Ukraine Forum at Chatham House. She joins us tonight from London. Welcome to DW. Now, expectations were low. I said it there. What do you make of what's come out of these short talks then?
Well, it looks like Russia is drip-feeding hope for some kind of a settlement by these rather small prisoner exchanges with Ukraine. You could see it as some kind of trust-building measures between the two sides. But I think these kind of bilateral talks are more show for Donald Trump. Each side is trying to demonstrate that they're constructive, that they're willing to talk. But the summer offensive is very much underway. The war is in a very hot phase. Russians are pushing the front lines, making some incremental gains in the east of Ukraine. And so far, there's no sign of slowing down. And we have heard that there was no agreement on a ceasefire.
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? A ceasefire and peace, ultimately. Of course, did Russia and Ukraine get any closer to that?
To be honest, from the public statements of Russian demands towards Ukraine, I do not see sides coming any closer, unfortunately. People in Ukraine do not see the light in the end of the tunnel and are preparing for the long haul to sustain the home front, to keep on the defenses going. The mobilization continues to replenish the infantry and other types of military formations. So Russia, I could hardly see where President Putin, being in power so much, being an antagonistic president, not just vis-a-vis Ukraine, but vis-a-vis the West, would backtrack on his demands.
Volodymyr Zelensky continues to challenge Vladimir Putin to have a meeting at the presidential level. Do you have a sense that that is becoming more likely through these talks that we've seen in the past months?
I don't get this sense. I don't see why somebody like Putin would meet with Zelensky, who he is, accusing of being a Nazi and basically says the country doesn't exist. So it would actually be a sign of recognition of an independent Ukraine, something that Putin would like to turn into a gray zone, a buffer zone, something that he can control in order to defend himself from democracy, from freedom, unless there's some serious pressure put around these secondary sanctions on Russian oil exports to India, China, Brazil, that would curtail Putin's financial means to wage the war. I don't see why he would even negotiate in earnestly with Ukraine.
Is that 50 days deadline that Donald Trump announced last week increasing the pressure on Russia at all?
Well, interestingly enough, we have not heard anything from Putin himself about this 50-day ultimatum. There was something said by Peskov that they are carefully studying the proposal from Washington, but Putin pretends nothing happens. And I think this is his goal. He wants to have a bilateral relationship with America, with Trump, mainly about business, about making deals and getting rich. While he wages the war, he still tries to convince both Europe and America to abandon Ukraine, that, it's not their war, it's in Russia's backyard, and let Russia sort this out.
Orysia Lutsevich, thank you so much.
Let's bring in Dmitry Alperovich. He is chairman of the geopolitical think tank Silverado Policy Accelerator. Welcome to DW. These were very brief negotiations. What did you make of the outcome?
Well, it's not really a surprise. The problem is the two sides, of course, are very far apart. In essence, the Russians want Ukrainians to surrender much of the land that they've captured, or all the land that they've captured, surrender on critical political demands, and the Ukrainians are not willing to, of course, surrender on any of those issues. But it's good that they're continuing to talk. And while they didn't agree necessarily on the date for the next meeting, there have been discussions about potentially continuing the conversations virtually, knowing that if the breakthrough is unlikely, there's no point in them all traveling to Istanbul. They can continue it in a more effective manner. The Ukrainians did propose a summit between Zelensky and Putin to try to get a resolution. The Russians didn't reject it out of hand, but it's highly unlikely that Putin would attend such a summit, given that he views Zelensky as an illegitimate leader and as someone who is beneath him to meet with.
What would have to happen for Putin to agree to that meeting?
Well, he has to get convinced that he can't accomplish what he needs to accomplish on the battlefield. And right now, he still feels quite confident in his ability to capture territory. The Russians are gaining territory at an enormous cost, losing thousands of men every single month. But nevertheless, they're advancing. They think that the line in the Donbass around the Pokrovsk region in particular is very weak on the Ukrainian side, and they can get some gains. They're trying to make progress in the north as well around Sumy. So as long as he has that confidence that he can continue to prosecute this war and inflict terrible damage on Ukraine itself, of course, through these terror campaigns against Ukrainian cities that are getting incredibly intense every single night, he's not going to relent.
So Russia wants to continue its war on Ukraine. Ukraine doesn't want to surrender territory. Do you see any way forward in these peace talks? Is there anything that could lead to a breakthrough here?
I don't think there's any likelihood of a breakthrough in the immediate future. Unless Putin gets convinced that he can no longer achieve his objectives militarily, he's going to keep going. But there are promising signs that the Russian economy is starting to get weaker and weaker. The sanctions are effectively functioning as gravity. They've been taking down the growth rates of the Russian economy. They're making it much less productive. And this year in particular, they're really struggling with low oil prices, with the depletion of their national wealth fund, the liquid assets in that national wealth fund. And Putin is even talking about how they need to reduce military spending next year because the current rate is unsustainable. The interest rates are very high. There's still high inflation, very low unemployment because so many men are out fighting this war in Ukraine. So they have huge problems, but it's not at a point of being critical where he has to make concessions.
Dmitry Alperovich, thank you very much.
Thank you.